So it's currently 7:30 at night. It's still too bright to watch the TV on an evening because the sunlight just bounces off the TV that we installed last week. And it's very frustrating. So much so that behind you, we've had to put some really scruffy rags just hanging over the doors. So today I'm going to sort out the curtains. Anyway, one thing that I'll talk about later is a question that I had, whether it was cost effective to actually make my own curtains. First things first, we need to get the curtain poles up. So this one that we've got is just over 3 meters wide, and the other French doors, that's 2.32 meters wide. And we just wanted the same matching curtain poles, which was very tricky to find one that extended to the right size. Now, getting extendable ones can be tricky because if you've got one where it just extends in the middle, your curtain can catch on it. But we found one that has extenders on the ends. So we've got two that are very reasonably priced. I'll leave a link below and you can see what you think about it. I've put one together here. Let's just stitch a coving tool because that is next week's job. Now, I forgot that I ordered 2 different sizes in this. One that goes to 3 meter length. But you can see here, if you look close enough, that it's put together in sections, and the very ends are the bits that are extendable. And there's not a lot that do that, I found. Now I'll show you this going together in a minute. I've only put one together, but if I put it on the floor, you can get them different colours. If I take this apart, you'll probably see this satin or nickel finish actually does scratch, but that's only on the sections where they're put together. And while it's up, this should not come apart, and each one's got 3 brackets. Now, because it's over 3 meters long, we absolutely wanted to make sure it had a bracket in the middle so it didn't have chance to bow. And these are what they look like. Now, because I've got a centre bracket, the first thing I've had to do is get a measurement of the recess, 3.1 meters, and then mark the centre point of it, which is in line with the doors. Now, a lot of people will tell you you want to position your brackets about 12 to 15 centimetres from the top of the recess. Well, 15 would be about there, which is quite close to the coving. The reason we've decided against that is because if I measure here, that is 20 centimetres there. But if we go over to the other one, this is 23 centimetres. Now, it doesn't sound a lot, but when you stand from afar, well, I can see the difference. So we've also decided to make sure that the curtains are both at the same height to try and fool the eye. So we've compromised. We've decided to go 4 inches from the top of the coving. That will give us here 5 inches. Now, when I do put my curtain pole up, I don't want it to just stop there because I'll be able to see daylight coming through the curtain when it's closed. So we've decided to go for 8 inches, about 20 centimetres. And the reason for that is these curtains are very big. When they are in the open position, it's the gather that would be quite wide. So we've put it more over here so we lose less daylight through the window, and that's for both of them as well. I think anything wider than that would be too long, but a lot of places will tell you you should go with 15 centimetres. Now, this is for the bracket. It's that bracket and finial that will stop the curtain from coming off the rail. Now, in an ideal world, all of your rooms will be square, your ceilings will be square to the room. And obviously I've marked 4 inches from the coving temporarily, then offered a spirit level up and found the coving isn't actually level. So something I've got to think about is, do I go with the coving, even though it's just a fraction out, or just stick to a spirit level? Because the good old saying, if it looks right, it is right. And sometimes spirit levels make things look off when something else is off. So I think the safest thing to do is stick with the one in the middle because we know that's right. And then we do the outer ones and adjust them accordingly if needed. So the brackets have come with raw plugs and screws. Now, I didn't know what drill bit size to use for that. So what I've done is this. I've grabbed some calipers and I've offered it up to the very end where there's no collar, there's no lip sticking out. The battery's flat on this, so I'm actually just using the measurement guide there. So it's telling me 5 millimeters I need to use for a drill bit. And to make sure I don't drill too far, I've put a depth gauge on my drill bit as well. So I'm going to work on the top screw first and then plan where my other one's going to go. So just to show you, that mark there is going to be my top one, and then I'll be adding another one underneath it after. And hammer drill. I've got a piece of wood so I can hammer it in without damaging my plaster. So I'm temporarily putting this in, and I can make a mark where my other hole lies. Now I'm penciling that so I know where to draw my next one. Right, let's try and get that in a bit more. Now I've just had a bit of an idea because we've got a reference point now, and I'm going to put my spirit level up against that and get that bang on there. If I put that there, okay. Now because I've obviously drilled on an angle here, I've got to manipulate this because I don't want the bracket to be wonky. So I am twisting this at the same time as screwing the bottom one in. So I don't know who designed these, but where these screw holes are, they're in the most ridiculous place. Okay, so I've got to keep that steady. I'll front my bracket. Just want to circle the bit I definitely want. Wow. Right, let's have a look. From here, it does look like there's a bit of a bow. I wonder if that's in enough, and not one there. Now, I want to quickly talk about the curtains that we went for. Now, because this one in particular is a very large size, I couldn't just get ready-made curtains for these. So I went on some custom-made curtain websites, and I got a quote for about £557 for this and £500 for that one there. When you add those up, that's about the same price as just me buying these French doors. But I thought, that's just extreme. It's just fabric. So I decided to go on Dunelm to price up how much it would cost for me to make my own at £25 a metre plus blackout lining. And that got ridiculous as well. This one I would have paid £440 just for the fabric alone, not the eyelets. And this one came to £647.50. So it was actually going to be more expensive. So I'm now thinking, is making curtains actually worth it anymore? Unless you find a really dirt cheap fabric roll. So we've decided to go for some Dunelm ready-made ones, but because ready-made weren't available in this size, I'm having to double up and either sew them together or just link them. So we'll try that shortly. Although one thing I'll point out is if you are going to be buying fabric and blackout lining individually, you're probably going to end up with a better quality curtain. So I'm going to show you what I went for. So these are the curtains that I've gone for. Blackout Luna curtains with eyelets. And I've already partially opened one. And I must admit, it's better quality than I expected. I knew I could take them back if needed. It's almost a flannel feel and a very fine weave. But these are the two pairs that we bought to go on the big one. So we're going to see if the curtain pole that we've just put up is sturdy enough for the job. If not, we might have to replace it. Now, one thing I did struggle with was finding the right drop. So if this all works out, I would have saved about £700 doing this. But obviously, it comes at a slight price of me having to just shorten the curtains, which I'm not concerned about. So I'm just going to unravel this just to see what this lining's like. So all of the curtains that we've got are 90 inches long. That's the drop. So the blackout lining isn't actually an extra lining. It's just like a coating at the back of this fabric. So we need to get the first one up. So I'm just taking the finial off that we put on last night to test. And to make life easier, I've just grouped them like that. But I need you to hold this while I go and do the other. All right. Oh my God, it's bowing up there. Right. Well, I can tell you this is going back. That's ridiculous. It makes it look homely. I'm definitely not adding an affiliate link in the description. So aside from not being happy with the curtain pole, we thought we'd actually put the other panel on the other side. And when we closed them, we were surprised that it looks all right as it is. Now, the reason I say that is when you go curtain shopping, the measurements are per panel, and a lot of people will tell you that the panel should be pretty much the length of the curtain pole. And obviously that's why we bought 2 of them, knowing that when they are in the open position, the gather would be a little bit wider, and that is also why I wanted my finial overhang deeper. But knowing this could save us money, but this is the smaller curtain. So I think we're going to do a very quick switcheroo, put that to one side and get the bigger one out of the packet, stick it up. I think we need to do that just to compare them. Put that there. Oh, definitely heavier. Curtain pole's not going to stand a chance. A lot more eyelets. Right, I need Mr. TCD's assistance again. You know, the gather is looking fuller, but closed. It catches on that rail, doesn't it? That's come away a bit. Yeah, I'm all right with that. What is this nonsense about having your curtain to the same width as your pole? Actually, that looks so much nicer. You've got more of a gather while it's closed than that. But because it's still daylight, what does it look like? How does the blackout lining work? They just need a good steam and shortening and a different pole. Now, speaking of poles, we live about an hour from decent shops for curtain poles, so I asked on my Facebook page for advice, and aside from suggestions of me making one out of scaffolding poles and copper pipes, Angela recommended poles and blinds. Now, I went on the website, couldn't see any quick delivery options, but I could on Poles Direct. Sister brand is Blinds Direct. And they offered next day dispatch and sold them in 28mm, so they are 10mm thicker than the first ones we bought, and they were recommended for up to 8kg curtains, which is great because mine were 3kg for a pair. And I was lazy and opted for a £5 cut down charge. I didn't have to hacksaw either end off, and placed my order on the Sunday. So on Monday I got an alert to say they'd been dispatched. Very promising. This proceeded with a message on the following day to say they'd arrived between 4:52 and 5:52. But they didn't. They ended up going back to the depot. Then for Wednesday, I had a new ETA between 3:25 and 4:25. No show again. And by this time, I was getting a bit miffed because I needed to crack on and check Trustpilot for people's experiences, and found many said that theirs took weeks to arrive and that it was pointless paying extra for next day dispatch. So after a call to their customer services, who merely sent me the same tracking link that I'd already got, I got a message on the Thursday to say there was a 24-hour delay, which I thought was odd because it'd been more than that. Then Friday, another ETA between 2:23 and 3:23, which now I thought, yeah, I don't think this is turning up, and I was right to trust my judgment. But after 3 calls to customer service to find out what was actually going on, with no actual explanation as to why I wasn't made a priority for paying extra, I got a message on the Monday morning to say it would be here between 3:22 and 4:22, and that I'd be stop number 39. Now, I didn't think it would turn up at all because last week I was around stop 32, but I was eventually put out of my misery so I could complete this job. They're finally here. Finally! This has been back and forth all most of last week. About time! I've got a feeling these have arrived today because I messaged Blinds Direct on Friday moaning from my carpenter's daughter Instagram. I shouldn't have had to do that. And I told Blinds Direct that if I'd have known it would have taken this long, I would have used somebody else. So it says, fragile, please handle with care. If this parcel is damaged, please accept the item, but sign as damaged. I didn't even see that. It's damaged here. By these not being here, it's held everything up because I need to put these up first, then put the curtains up so I can find out how much I need to shorten the curtains by. I couldn't have just shortened the curtains first because I might have had to do it all over again. And these poles are thicker than the others, meaning my curtains will actually be a little bit higher. They don't feel like they're going to bow. 3 brackets. Double check those. Oh, I can't reach that. Good. Good. So everything's definitely sturdier. Now we know what we're dealing with, and hopefully we can reuse the same holes, all of them. I'm now going to take these curtains down, take this pole down, we'll send that one back and put the new one up there, then copy exactly what we've done there on our new area. Luckily, our old holes are lining up with the new ones. So this is the piece, which I think just slots in. And there's a little sticky outy bit that hopefully is my gauge. So that's halfway. Definitely open these first because I've scratched it already. Once we've got the curtains up, shortened and we're happy, then I'll tighten these back up. You'll notice I've got a nice overhang, a decorative overhang now for the finial. That's it. Right, so the curtain pole is up. We've got one finial at the end, and Mr. TCD's put those curtains up just to give you an idea, and look, no bowing. So that's a good start. Now, before we decide what curtains are going on what, I'm going to crack on with this one over here. And hopefully once we've played around with the curtains, we'll realise we don't need this extra pair, but if we do, we do. Oh, and I had to position the far left bracket more to the right because I found it was in line with the electric socket below. Oh. I've undone the grub screws. It's going about there. So now we're trying the biggest curtains on the shortest pole, then swapped and compared it with one of the cheaper, smaller pairs that we bought for the biggest pole. Plenty big enough. I think it's big enough. I like them as they are. They're not even catching on anything, which is great. But this is the smaller curtain that we bought originally for the bigger one because we were going to put two lots of curtains there. And this big one we bought for that one. And I'm actually all right with the pleats. And now I just think it needs a really good steam. And then I can start working out where I'm going to shorten it because obviously they're not hanging very well because they're just too long and or kinky. Steam in this heat. So this is another expense we had to do yesterday because when I plugged in my original garment upright steamer, it kept tripping the electrics. Anyway, I found this on Amazon resale. I think it were about 30 odd quid. But there were no way I was ironing all of these. I might have to lift it up. Yeah, one downside. Anyway, I'm getting rid of all the creases just so I know how long they're really going to be. I have to do it in sections. Even using this is going to take quite some time. Yeah, I could have used a wallpaper stripper. That probably would have worked. Once I get one pair done, then work out where to shorten them, I could pass this job on to Mrs. TCD. So I've steamed this pair of curtains and right now I'm pinning them up to where I want them. Now I don't want them running along the floor because I don't want them to get filthy. And what I'm doing is actually just folding them one hem's length and pinning them up. And that gives me about 2 centimetres, 1 to 2 centimetres off the floor. I'm being a bit lazy here because if I wanted it 1 centimetre off the floor, I'd have to unpick this, lengthen it out, and then shorten it where I want it. I can't be bothered. So as a pin, I'm only going as far as it will let me. It'd be easier if I took this off actually. I wanted to pin it first, just get a bit of a feel. What does it look like? So I'm going to take this one down, take it to the sewing machine, but I need to match the thread. Right, I'm steaming the hem because our iron is broken. And this should give it a smarter finish. Now, you could use iron-on hemming tape, but I prefer to sew because it's more fun and it's easier to take the stitches apart if needed. And all I am doing is a basic running stitch, which I've set to 5mm long, exactly the same as the existing stitches on the curtains. It does help to do a test on a scrap piece of material. Okay, so I'm keeping the edge of the foot in line with the edge of the hem. And that should give me the straightest line possible. But I am completely self-taught and I sew once in a blue moon, but I'll leave a quick how to use a sewing machine video guide in the description below. I'm also using a denim needle as well because it's thicker fabric. So I'm taking it steady initially with my foot pedal to control the speed. And by the time I get to the end, I do something called a reverse stitch for about an inch. So it adds another layer of stitches on top of my existing ones to reinforce it. It's just a button on my machine that does it. And this should prevent the stitches from coming undone. I also sew up the ends as well, so there's no open sections. So I've now shortened both the curtains and they are back up, and I need to tighten these grub screws, making sure that the join is in the middle of my middle bracket. And definitely do this one first before you do the outer ones. I didn't make that mistake twice. Mr. TCD's put the finial back on. I'm going to do the grub screw for the finial as well when I can get it. So we're making sure the grub screw is at the back, but trying to do it in a way that it's not awkward for me. That's better. It's hot. It's hot up here. So this is how they now look. It is far cosier. Nothing scraping on the floor. They look custom made because I've adjusted them, and they are doing a very good job being blackout and it's not as echoey. And we've already been watching TV on a summer's evening without any reflection. So let's open them. I've still got some steaming to do on this one. It's not the quickest of jobs. And because they're thermal curtains, we have been noticing a huge difference of not getting as much heat from the conservatory into here. Anyway, so after all of that palaver, I wanted to tell you whether it was financially worth it or not. So well over a week ago, I worked out it would have cost us £1,087 or thereabouts to go for custom made curtains or ones that I made myself. But by doing this, by buying ready-made, shortening them and fitting the poles, the curtains alone cost us £195 because we're going to send another one back. And with the poles as well, the total spend became £319.34. And in total, we've saved around £768. And I think that is a huge, huge difference. I think these are very good quality, and I particularly love how it blends in with accents in the room. So if you look at the colour of the curtains, it picks out some of the neutral tones in the two different tiles that we've got on the fireplace. And it complements the flooring as well. And thankfully, Amazon have refunded us on the original wonky curtain poles. Now, originally, I took a chance on those because I could only see one negative review, but when I looked further, I realised about 99% of the good reviews were actually Amazon Vine customer review of free product. So I think I should go on there and do my own review just to make it a bit more balanced. But I think they were really more suitable for like nets and voiles. So obviously I've had a terrible experience buying curtain poles twice. So I'd love to know where you would particularly buy yours from, and hopefully it will help people who are watching this in the future. Oh, and if you do anything differently as well. But for now, I just want to finish steaming them, particularly after all the hard work that I've done. Although I'm sure any creases will fall out, particularly in this heat. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that one, and yeah, catch you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.